Well, it's after work. It's Monday. About 5:30 in the p.m. and
5:24.
5:24 in the p.m. and I've got Abigail with me again. See, there she is, kind of. Yes. So, how was your day?
It was all right. I finished class early and then just hung out with friends.
How much longer do you have classes for?
I think Friday's my last day.
Oh, okay. So you need a ride tomorrow?
Oh yeah.
All right.
How was your day?
Tiring.
Host of our show.
Yeah. Well, I saw a new patient for the first time today, and had a lot of things to figure out and sort out about that. Ended up making 5 visits today. Made an extra stop off at somebody's place to deliver a wheelchair.
Cool.
Got to have very long and complicated discussion on the phone with one of the doctors about she already wrote a prescription for this thing, but now the dosage has changed and the pharmacy won't dispense it, and blah blah blah, and all this other stuff, and it was pretty complicated. It took about 3 calls to get it all sorted out. But the result of that is that the medications that this person needs are going to arrive via FedEx Express Courier tomorrow. You know, it was much easier just for me to do it that way than to deal with the local pharmacies. And I handed in my assessment video. I don't know how I feel about it. I did my final exam assessment video. I'm not going to post it on YouTube. It's like an hour long.
Yeah.
And I was expecting it only to be about 40 minutes long, and then I got more than halfway through it the first time I tried it, and then I realized I had skipped a couple of important tests. So I just hung my head. I'm like, we have to start this all over again. And then
retake.
Yeah, 2 people flaked out on me to do this. So I ended up getting Gary to do it, Zap's boyfriend.
It's like they don't understand what an honor it is being a test dummy. Makes me
know.
wish I didn't have breasts.
Well, one guy was all for it, but he didn't have a space to do it. I didn't really have any space in my house to do it. I couldn't really think of a good place to do it in my house. You know, our house, I should say.
No, it's yours.
All right, American Ambulance. They're my favorite ambulance company. My friend Eric works there. At least I think he's my friend. I haven't seen him in like years.
Well, you could always look him up and ask if you're still friends.
He's got a girlfriend. Why bother?
You don't bother talking to the friends of yours that have girlfriends?
Well, they're otherwise occupied.
They probably miss you.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. But yeah, Gary did it. Very, very noble of Gary to volunteer. I took up like 2 hours of his time, get everything all set up and rearranging him and Zap's living room. And yeah, it was fun catching up with those kids. There was a couple of people visiting Zap that I hadn't seen in a long time. So I offered to take him out to dinner afterwards. They're like, "Nah, we're just gonna stay home and drink." I'm like, okay. But yeah, it was good chilling with those guys again. Now that I'm working full time, I never really feel like I can just like go and chill with anybody because I've always got stuff to do.
Yeah, well.
School has got a little bit to do with that too, I guess.
Yeah, maybe once you're just working instead of working and going to school.
Yeah, well, that's gonna be a couple of years from now.
Yeah, a couple of years from now.
A couple of years from now,
all the hanging out you'll be able to do.
I can have some friends again. Yeah. Because I mean, I don't know. Even on the weekends, like when I don't have anything to do, I just don't want to do anything. I just want to relax, play some video games. It's hard to find the sign up for obligations. Like mom hooked me up with this guy from work who plays Go, and I haven't played Go in months. But it's like, do I really want like another obligation, like going back to Aikido or going to Go Club?
Even though it's something you know you enjoy, yeah. Yeah,
but it's like it's another obligation. It's like someplace I have to be. So if I'm late at work, I'm going to be stressed out and hurrying to the next thing. You know.
Yeah.
So I'd rather have no obligations besides earning achievements in video games and socializing at the pub now and then.
And the achievements you earn.
The achievements I've earned. I've actually set Skyrim aside lately. I'm in the last couple of missions.
Oh yeah, I read about that. You're on Assassin's Creed, right?
Assassin's Creed Revelations now. That's pretty fun. It doesn't seem a whole lot different from the first one, but it's a good time.
Have there been any revelations, or?
Well, it seems like it's a revelation in progress. It is kind of cool though. They got into like a little bit more like transhuman slant in the storyline, where like the main character is trapped inside of the computerized genetic memory reticulum.
Bound to happen. I mean,
yeah.
The instant someone enters a computerized genetic memory reticulum, they're bound to get trapped there.
Yeah.
At least once.
But there are some like strange references to previous games that I haven't seen. But the multiplayer looks like a lot of fun. It's like really complex, brutal hide and seek.
Well, hide and seek is better the more complex and brutal it is.
Yes, that's true. We got a couple of new faces at work. That's been kind of nice.
Oh yeah. How was that friend of yours that you gave the tour?
I think she had a good time. I think she will have an even better time.
That's promising.
Then they're doing like a potluck like breakfast thing at work where we all bring in snacks and breakfast food and all like pull it together. I may call upon you to prepare me some pastries at some point.
No, anything for you. Just tell me in advance.
Yeah. What's the date today? Today's the 12th? 17, 18, 19. It's next week on Monday. So.
Next week on Monday?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can definitely make something.
Something breakfast appropriate?
Something breakfast appropriate. I'll try out a few things this week, and then you can have the beta tested stuff to bring in.
Excellent. Yeah, the what do they call it? The community development department or whatever at work.
Yeah.
Has been doing all these great like recognition things. Like once a month, they're having like sort of like a themed potluck breakfast and stuff like that. It's just like a really nice surprise to walk into work and see this huge buffet of tasty breakfast food spread out in front of me.
Sounds very good for morale.
Yeah, it's very good for morale. It was very good for morale on that day, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe the day afterwards I wasn't feeling so hot, but that day I felt great.
Where are the pastries?
Yes, where are my pastries?
I have become accustomed to a certain standard of living.
A certain standard of pastries, you might say.
Yes. And now the pastry minion has just gone off to fetch them, yes? So you got one person their meds FedExed, and you brought another their wheelchair. Anything interesting happen in the other visits?
Yeah, I mean, some interesting things happen, but I'm not sure, like, to what extent I can talk about them. I mean,
Oh yeah, because confidentiality.
yeah, it's hard to know, like, where the line is. Like, how much can you say without it being personally identifiable? And, I mean, like, I know the actual specific types of information you're not allowed to say or
Yeah.
whatever, but even if you're not breaking the law, if you offend the wrong person, then that's, you know, even more trouble than breaking the law. I mean, nobody's ever been fined for disclosing HIPAA information. It's like a $500,000 fine. Nobody's ever been fined it. But
who wants to be the first?
But who wants to be the first? No, but the real problem is somebody that you work with recognizing somebody that you're talking about, and then they think that that's against the law, and so they cause trouble for you because of it. But really, because they knew about it anyway, no breach of information has happened, because the only way you could know who that person is if you have access to their confidential health information also.
In which case, what's the problem?
Exactly. But people who are not as accustomed to like maybe like logic and the humanities and you know, like critical thinking and stuff like that tend not to grasp that and cause trouble for you anyway.
And people's confidential medical information is such a sensitive subject that they might just feel compelled to err on the side of caution.
Well, I don't know if caution really like plays into it. I think it's just people being self-righteous and.
I was trying to see if I could put a more generous slant on it, but I guess I can't.
These people deserve no generosity.
Well, then I'll relax.
Yes, just as they should do.
But although they're top secret and you can't talk about them, they were fun.
Yeah,
interesting.
well, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there's stuff going on. I'm still, you know, kind of adjusting to the full-time caseload thing. I feel like I'm getting into the rhythm of it a little bit better. But it is like a skill that's taken me a while to work on, and will take me a while still.
Filing out paperwork in situ is working?
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine any other way of doing it now. I mean, the days when I like say I haven't been able to get a signal, or my computer wasn't working or something, and I've had to write things down on paper, it just felt like a huge step backwards. I mean, it was. It really throws my day off, because then I have to, you know, sit down and do it all later, which I was doing before anyway. But
now that you've gotten used to not doing that.
Yeah, now that I've gotten used to not doing that, I've got more time for schoolwork and stuff. So I've got to just do one more page on my term paper on Smith-Lemli-Opitz syndrome, and then I have to write a 5-page paper on attending a church.
Oh, you haven't done that yet?
No, I did that yesterday. I got
Okay.
I got up early and went to church on Sunday.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Was it the Unitarian church?
Yeah,
or
it was the Unitarian church. Yeah.
Did anything interesting happen for you to write about?
Well, I got to write 5 pages whether anything interesting happened or not.
So I hope something interesting happened.
Yeah.
It's your way.
Well, I mean, she provided some guidelines, like what was the general age breakdown, what kind of clothes were people wearing, stuff like that. How were you greeted, So I'll be able to squeeze 5 pages out of that. But
Yeah.
the paper on Smith-Lemli-Opitz syndrome is turning out to be a little bit tougher because the kids
It requires actual facts?
Well, no, I mean, I've got like tons and tons of sources and stuff, but the kids who have the disorder have like such a wide range of possible abnormalities, conditions, and defects that writing in a general way about how you care for them in general is difficult to do. It's like, well, some children require this and some children require that.
Are there like most common symptoms that you can break it down to?
Yeah. I mean, I talked about and that's what I've been doing mostly, just talking about the most common ones.
And then maybe some caveats about like significant deviations from the type.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's tough because the disease was only really discovered in the mid to late 60s, and
Could you describe it to the viewers at home?
Describe what, the disorder?
The disorder.
Well, Smith-Lemli-Opitz syndrome is a congenital abnormality in the DHC7R gene, DHCR7R, one of those. And it's inherited in an autosomal recessive fashion. So siblings of a child who has it have a 25% chance of having it, 25% chance of being 50% chance of being an asymptomatic carrier, and a 25% chance of not carrying it. And the rate at which it occurs varies wildly because there's a lot of the times the only way to diagnose it is like through autopsy or like testing tissue samples for cholesterol. And a lot of times it's just not going to be done because the baby's dead anyway of birth defect. Doesn't matter how much cholesterol they have in their body. But the DHCR7 gene codes for an enzyme that converts delta hydrocholesterol or something like that into cholesterol. It's actually the last step in synthesizing cholesterol in your body.
Okay.
And with the defective versions of this gene, the babies can't synthesize cholesterol. And apparently, the developing fetus doesn't get the cholesterol from the mother's blood supply. It actually synthesizes it in situ, like the genes code for it. And lots and lots and lots of birth defects. I mean, heart defects are common, and lung defects, and not a lot of alveoli, and it kills a lot of babies really, really early on. But the phenotype can be so mildly expressed that the child could just have vague stereotypical facial features and no other abnormalities. Yeah. It depends on to what extent their ability to synthesize cholesterol is impaired. But they often have a lot of gastrointestinal problems, and they need gastric feedings and supplemental cholesterol. They give supplemental cholesterol to the kids either through egg yolks or pure crystalline synthetic cholesterol. But then get a supplemented with digestive enzymes so they can actually absorb it, and it's kind of anecdotal whether or not it's really helpful. But anecdotally, some of the kids who get supplemental cholesterol have better behaviors, and they grow a little better and stuff like that. Interestingly enough, 86% of them have autism, which is kind of interesting. Yeah. And almost 100% have some degree of mental retardation.
So then, will you address in your paper stuff involved with dealing with autistic patients, or is that going to be left for another paper?
That's a little outside the scope of the paper. I mean, it's basically how it's defined, what the epidemiology of it is, how it manifests clinically, what kind of diagnostic tests you use, what kind of treatment there is, stuff like that.
Yeah.
We could pick any disease with a pediatric focus, pretty much. And I picked SLOS because I think my first or my second paying gig as a nurse was taking care of a kid with SLLS in home care.
Is that the house that me and Mom got lost taking you to?
Maybe, yeah, maybe that
We
was
got
the one.
very lost.
Yeah, well, I didn't get a lot of support from the home care agency. It turned out that the home care agency that hired me to go do this job was kind of fly-by-night and kind of shady. And they didn't explain to me before accepting the case that the
Mother had gone through like 30 nurses or something?
Yeah, the 20-year-old single mother of the kid had fired like the previous 32 nurses or something like that. But the kid was really easy to take care of. Suction his trach out every 5 minutes. You need a little tube in his throat, and I had to suction it out.
Yeah.
And feed him through the G tube, and clean him up when he poops, and play with the kid and stimulate him and stuff. And the kid was easy. But as a new nurse right out of school, dealing
with the parent
was very difficult and beyond my competency. And then when I explained all the craziness that was going on, the manager at the home care agency just kind of took some notes. He's like, maybe home care nursing is not for this patient. I'm like, well, maybe you're right. And I expected them to call me back for a flu clinic or something, because they did a lot of stuff, but nobody ever contacted me from there again, and the office closed up and they moved somewhere else.
That's sort of shifty sounding.
Yeah, well, I guess the agency is still around, but that particular office is gone. It was right in the mall near our house.
Yeah, I do remember Mom and I taking you to that particular patient's house. Like once.
Yeah.
And we got very, very lost because we tried to follow your directions.
Yeah. Well, that was before we all had GPS in our phones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The dark ages, before GPS.
Yeah, I don't know what I would have done before. I had a little black rectangle on my windshield that would tell me where to go.
Probably just wandered the highways like a restless ghost.
Yeah.
Forever lost.
I got a cell phone in the first place originally because I was visiting friends in Boston, and I kept getting lost.
Yeah.
I had to call and be like, where is Government Center? Where am I right now? Where do I go?
I got lost walking from the McDonald's near my school to the library near my school, and I just paced up and down the road for half an hour, and then Mom decided to get me a phone. And I know that I can't really know anything about a person just from the fact that the back of his truck says "Cowgirls Love Dick" on it, but I've still decided to dislike him.
Or her.
Or her. Well, yeah. They're disliked.
Yeah, I pretty much dislike anybody who has that many stickers on the back of their car of any type. I'm actually pretty sick of looking at the back of this truck. What is going on right now? Why are we stopped?
I'm not sure.
I'm gonna lock the doors. You never know around here. Well, I have the luxury today of not actually having any assignments due.
Ooh.
So I can kind of take it easy. But then tomorrow at midnight is that paper. I better double check, make sure it's tomorrow at midnight, not tomorrow at noontime. If it's tomorrow at noontime, I'm going to have to finish it tonight.
Well, if you did half of it tonight, you could relax more tomorrow.
Alright, it's like mostly done. It's supposed to be 10 pages. I have 9 pages.
Okay.
And then you have to separately, on the discussion board, post a synopsis of the paper. But in the APA format, the abstract, not synopsis, the abstract is part of the paper, and it takes up its own page. So that would put me up to 10.
Okay.
But I don't know if I'm supposed to include that in the...
Maybe do another page just to be safe.
Yeah, I don't know how much more I can squeeze out of this, though. I mean, I could probably add a little more stuff to the treatment section. But it's hard to find, it's impossible to find any info on nursing management of these patients except by thinking in terms of the specific congenital defects they may or may not have, I talked a little bit about physical therapists and occupational therapists, and cholesterol supplementation, and some new treatments that are on the horizon. They're experimenting with mouse models of SLOS. And one was really interesting. It involved an adeno-related virus, an adeno-associated virus laced with the human DHC7 gene, and then infecting the embryos with it. It's pretty interesting. And then another one had to do with modulation of maternal cholesterol transport by using a liver X factor receptor agonist or something like that. I don't know. It's in the paper. I don't remember exactly. But that kind of stuff's not really interesting to me. I think the teacher's just making us do a pediatric focus paper because she was in pediatrics, is my guess. Maybe it's part of developmental competence. All of the sections have a developmental competence section.
So, with the added experience you have now in interacting with the families of patients, do you think that if you were back in that situation, dealing with that patient and his mother, you would have been able to handle it better?
Yes.
And how would you have done that?
Well, part of the complication was that she was the go-between between the patient's 9 different doctors.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay, but she was ignoring my advice because I wasn't one of those 9 doctors.
Yeah.
And if I was experienced then as I was now, I would have been calling all of those doctors, going over the plan of care with all of them, and then when she would say something to me like, no, you can't give him more water because you're not part of the feeding team, I could tell her, well, I talked to the feeding team already and they said it was a good idea. Like things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, things that were really obvious to me. When the poop starts coming out dry, you give him more water. Very, very simple stuff that, the big difference would really have been confidence. For me to say, like, no, you're wrong, I have a degree in this. This is what we should do,
Yeah.
But right out of school with like a really like overbearing and psychologically a little bit nuts family caregiver, it's not easy to have that level of confidence, But now I have it. But I wouldn't take a job like that again. It was like 8-hour continuous care shifts pretty much. I enjoy consulting much better, educating the family caregivers, going over things, making sure everybody has all the supplies that they need. If everything.
Yeah, you seem to be having fun.
Yeah, if everything goes well, it could be a half-hour, 45-minute visit, and if there's complications, I could be there for an hour, hour and a half. But you stay for as long as it takes to get things done.
Yeah.
It's really tricky because in that situation, because of the complex medical needs like the tube feedings and the tracheostomy suctioning and stuff like that, it really requires somebody at the skill level of a licensed nurse.
Yeah.
But licensed nurses could be working in a lot more interesting environments and getting paid a lot more than just taking care of like one patient for 8 hours. So it's really kind of like a private duty kind of job. People find people to do that private duty, but then, well, they're not really represented by an agency. And
do they have the competence level?
Yeah, are they licensed? Has anybody ever taken action against their license? Well, you can look all that stuff up on the Department of Public Health website. But individual people may not know to look those things up. Seen some like nurses' aides or people acting as nurses' aides that are hired privately. They're kind of like that. And some of them are really good, but there's not as much oversight, or accountability.
So people don't really have a way of knowing that they're very good in advance, aside from personal impressions.
Yeah, and if you could stay there and just watch them do it, you wouldn't need them in the first place.
Yeah.
I did get a couple of offers when I worked at the nursing home because it was like all sorts of wealthy patients, people offering me like, at the time I was making like maybe $50,000 a year, and people were offering me like $50,000 a year, and people were offering me like $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 a year to go live in this like mansion and see all the nursing needs of this like rich old crazy lady, And
honestly, depending on how crazy she is, that sounds pretty fun. With the fun increasing, the crazier she gets.
Well, but still, it's like just
you want to see multiple patients.
Yeah, it's just one person, that kind of get boring after a while.
I remember when you first got out of nursing school, you seemed to be focusing more on hospitals. Are you happy now with geriatric patients, or do you want to shift your focus?
Well, it's all geriatric patients, whether you're in a hospital or not. And some of my patients are as young as 40 and 50, so not all of my patients in hospice are necessarily geriatric. But I mean, I probably should work in a hospital at some point, but I'm not really in a hurry to do it. It looks like the people there are a lot higher strung. The pay's not quite as good. The work is a lot more stressful. There are parts of it that do look exciting, and there are some opportunities and things I could learn from in that setting. But I'm not really in a hurry to do it.
You seem pretty happy where you are now.
Maybe that's something I can reevaluate once I have my master's.
And the opportunities available to you at a hospital might just be ones you find more interesting once you have a master's.
There are just certain patterns in like the social networks at play of how people interrelate. It seems like the larger of a group that you work in, the more horizontal violence there is. Have you heard that term before? Horizontal violence or intraprofessional violence?
I'm assuming it means bitchiness.
Yes, that's exactly what it means. It means bitchiness. It means people not being very nice to their coworkers, and it really comes just from stress and having a large, population of people working there. I mean, when I was working at the nursing home, I did notice, towards the end of my time working there, that whenever I worked more than 13 days in a row, I tended to blow up at people and not, be very civil. So, it was instructive in that sense that I learned what my limits were. But, it was like in the middle of big crises. There was no director of nursing, and the place was in chaos, and nobody knew what was going on, and the place was terribly managed and run. And I really liked the patients and the families there, so I wanted to step up and do everything I could and help out. And I took on responsibilities that nobody else would. But the consequence of that was that at the end of 13, 14 days of doing that for 12 hours a day, I was not very nice to be around. What is going on around here? This is absolute madness.
Probably something little, like someone got pulled over that blocked up everything.
This is going to be a long video.
We'll have to think of lots of interesting things to talk about.
Yeah.
Quick, you think of something medical and I'll just be generally charming. If we're to the point where we're reciting poetry, it's gone on too long.
No, I hate poetry.
See, that'll be why it'll show that we've gone on too long.
Do you hear people talking?
Yeah.
Those guys?
No. I don't know, maybe. Either that or we're in one of those urban legends where there's someone hiding in our back seat, only they're really bad at stealth.
Yeah, I don't think that's it.
It would be interesting, though, for the video.
Yeah, for the video, that would be interesting.
Someone with their windows down.
Well, I'm looking forward to relaxing with a pint of lambic.
Is that the beer from the monks?
It is. I think monks make it. It's like a Belgian beer, and it's like fruit flavored. It's very tasty. It tastes like
Now, do you think it's their brewing method or the holiness that tastes good?
Well, I mean, the Belgian brewing method is a little bit different than some others. I guess there's like some step where the the microbial process going on, like yeast fermentation or something. There's a step in the brewing process where the beer is intentionally exposed to outside microbial contaminants. Like I forget exactly how it works. It might be different in different cases, but there's some point where the work in progress is exposed to the air and it gets contaminated by just like regular microbes that are around. So it has a kind of a sour taste to it, which is sort of characteristic of Belgian beers. But the lambics, that taste is covered up somewhat by the strong like fruit taste. It's like a fruit infusion. So that sour, like, kind of, the sourness is like kind of just like one of the notes among many. And it's kind of tasty. It kind of tastes like champagne sometimes.
Interesting.
They've got peach and raspberry ones. They might have more, but all I know of is the peach and the raspberry.
So, for fruit-flavored beer, do they just, like, dump a bunch of raspberries in the barrel, or what?
I don't know how that works. I'm not a brewer. I have friends who are brewers. You could ask them. You met Jonas before, right?
Probably, but I have such a terrible time remembering my own friends' names that yours are sort of...
I guess he did the artwork for a series of beer labels that a friend of mine was like craft brewing his own beers or whatever. And I guess the legal aspects of that are really tricky, so they were kind of trying to do it as like an art gallery beer tasting kind of thing instead of like selling it in mass quantities. But he did he did a series of labels for the beer that were all based on mythical creatures.
Ooh.
Like there was an Oni beer and a Minotaur beer. And he's a great artist. He did some really cool artwork for it.
Cool. Centaurs were known to party.
Sure you're not thinking of satyrs?
No,
centaurs too, huh?
They partied too. I mean, this is Greek myth we're talking about. There were plenty of creatures known to party.
Oh, I can't wait to shake my fist irately at whatever is holding this up. Oh, it's over there too.
We'll have to shake our fist in multiple directions so we know that we've hit it.
I'm glad I can't, Yeah, good luck there, buddy. You're not going anywhere.
Oh, if only we'd thought of honking the horn. That's the clear and logical solution.
Honking the horn will make this move so much faster.
We can be so silly and forgetful sometimes.
Although, you know, from the looks of it, it looks like that might be... It looks like that might be a wrecker coming to clear up whatever is blocking the way.
In which case, keep honking, good sir. Keep honking.
No, it's like a crane or something. I don't know what the hell that is.
The best part is that we're basically in walking distance of our house.
I know, right? We could have walked home by now.
Well, not from Norwich, but...
Well, almost from the point in the highway where we got into this little conundrum.
That's true. I think you'd miss your car eventually, though. So is your House of Worship paper due tomorrow too, or?
No, that one she extended the deadline. It was due tomorrow, but now it's due Friday.
Oh, nice.
Ah, it must be a utility pole down or something. The undercover cop cars, those are pretty sweet.
Are they? I missed it.
Yeah, just like a regular car, but the lights flash. Very stealthy. I hear they commandeer them from cars that they steal from drug dealers and stuff like that, and then retrofit them.
Nice.
It's kind of like a zombie mentality.
Well, you convert your enemy after nomming on their brains.
Extracting all the details out of their address book and whatnot.
And then you make them one of your legion. Sounds like sound strategy to me.
Yeah, it's pretty clear cut.
Yeah. But then I always considered zombies to be the unsung heroes of the horror world.
Well, until lately, right?
Oh yeah. Well, the zombie craze.
No, there's zombies everywhere.
But do they really understand?
I wonder what'll be the next horror craze. I think we were talking about this before, right? Like how like the movie tropes or whatever reflected things that were going on in
oh yeah.
In like society or whatever, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers and the Cold War.
Oh yeah,
kind of thing,
yeah.
and Godzilla and the nuclear bomb and things like that. So what is it for zombies?
I was thinking pandemic or bioterrorism.
Yeah, well, you know that Night of the Living Dead movie. That like the old like black and white one or whatever. I haven't seen it all the way through, but it looks like the people start being zombies like while they're watching TV. Like, is there some kind of signal involved? I always
so mind control and indoctrination for that one.
Maybe mind control and indoctrination. I was also kind of thinking of like something like less on
the nose,
less human. Something that's this doesn't look good. Like, okay, alright, we're gonna have to get tricky here. Something more like, sort of the dehumanizing effect of, technology, maybe? Or like the synthesis, or like the loss of individuality through technological connections or something?
But I think that link would make more sense with all of the Robot Armada movies.
Well, you know, now it's a little more literal.
Yeah, that's true.
You know. Oh, what do you mean robot armada movies?
Well, you know, the killer robots, the killer AI, the killer whatever.
Oh, yeah, well, that might be like the same thing, just sort of, dumbed down for people who are literally minded. I wonder if there's another way to do this.
Always casting aspersions at the literally minded. So full of aspersions, my brother. Like a sack of aspersions for the literally minded.
I am a whole sack of aspersions, that's true. Alright, this is
that was actually his nickname in high school.
Yes, Mr. Aspersion. So I think I'm just going to drive down this road and take the first right that I see. See, this is 85. Okay, so we might have to loop back around.
Are we doomed?
Well, we'll just have to loop back around Quaker Hill.
Okay.
Whatever this is a huge clusterfuck.
I'm thinking that the next great horror movie should be about the horror of being stuck in that traffic jam.
Yeah.
There's people dying of old age sitting in their cars.
Let's see here. All I need is a right turn. Right turn, right turn, right turn.
There's not another right turn between here and Norwich.
All sorts of people making confused loops. I bet we could hook up a 32 around here somewhere. I probably should have just gotten right back on 395. We could have taken that into New London and then looped around.
Well, too late now.
Yeah, I'm definitely not going through all that again. Crossing traffic, that's a good sign. Huh. This is the firing range.
So maybe we can find a bunch of strangers with guns willing to help us get home?
No, I mean, I guess the point of me saying that was there probably won't be a right turn for a while.
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, we have heat and a studio audience.
That's true. We have everything we could possibly need.
Indeed.
Except something to drink. I'm thirsty.
Oh yeah, I'm parched.
Maybe we don't have everything we need.
An interesting theory.
Well, I know this takes us into Salem, and then from Salem we can get to Quaker Hill. We could probably get to Quaker Hill. Oh, Montville. Here we go.
Montville.
We're in Montville. Perfect.
Okay.
Well, let's take a right at the next log cabin, and
all according to plan.
All according to plan.
Montville can't be entirely log cabin, right?
No, you have to go pretty deep into Montville to get the log cabins.
But all the houses deep down are log cabins. In their hearts.
Well, around here it's mostly horsehair and mud.
Sturdy.
Until it gets wet.
Like that would ever happen. It doesn't rain in New England. I guess I always viewed the rogue AI, rogue robot movies as sort of similar to the Frankenstein movies and being about problematic parent-child relationships. Because they're generally rebelling against their creator.
Can you give me any examples besides The Matrix and Terminator?
Okay. iRobot, but that was terrible. Any Asimov book, not movie.
Huh. I guess I need to go back and read Asimov again. I read all of his stuff when I was young.
Oh, I only read the short stories where the robots were friendly. But, I mean, didn't HAL in 2001 A Space Odyssey turn on them? Even though that was because they were fundamentally illogical?
Yeah. I haven't watched 2001 in a long time either.
Yeah, but, I mean...
It's kind of a difficult movie to watch. very, very slow paced.
Yeah, especially for how often it's referenced. I think it's watched much more seldomly than it's referenced.
Well, sure.
Yeah, well, that's easy. But yeah.
Well, I'm not sure exactly where this road goes, but I have a feeling it's going to lead us in the right direction. I have a good
Someplace deep and dark.
I have a good feeling about this road. See how unlit and wooded this road is?
You realize that if we were in a movie, this would be the part where something crashes on our car, you push the gas, and the studio test audience decided which one of us was prettier, so they decided which one to root for to live.
Assuming the decision had to be mutually exclusive.
Oh, come on. At this point of the movie, to ramp up drama, one of us has to either die, be wounded and thus rendered inoperable and thought dead for the rest of the movie, or secretly be the bad guy.
But how could something secretly, happen that early, at that point, to ramp up suspense?
Well, I mean, there would be camera angles and music.
Oh, yeah.
And are they or aren't they?
I see.
I'd make a great secret bad guy. And that way you could be the protagonist and live, and I could escape for the sequel, and everyone would be happy. Yeah, this is one deep, dark, creepy road in the woods.
Yeah, this is Montville. This is just how Montville is.
Montville at night.
This is the longest ride home from Norwich ever. We're up to like 41 minutes now.
We're taking the scenic route.
Yeah, it's taking the better part of an hour.
Freaking traffic.
This sucks. I want to play video games.
We will get you back for video games, should hell bar the way.
Yeah, I could have played like a half hour more video games, but if it wasn't for that accident or whatever it was.
Weep for him, viewers at home, for his is a pain you will never understand. So me and my little friends have been talking about bringing in pastries to celebrate the end of semester.
So how many classes are you actually going to pass?
No comment.
No comment at all?
Okay, Mom watches this, don't be snippy. Well, on to next subject.
Well, she knows more about it than I do.
Still no comment.
Alright.
Oh, but
Yeah, no, this looks promising. Let's take a let's see.
Waterford Line or East Lake?
Waterford Line or Turner. Go this way. Fortunately, I drive around here all the time. This is like my cruise around aimlessly after work neighborhood. So,
and guess what we're doing? Cruising around aimlessly after work.
Well, we actually have an aim right now. That's.
But we can pretend we don't.
Yeah, well, we're aiming for home.
Someday.
I hope I'm going the right direction.
I feel a bit like Odysseus. He actually wasn't traveling over that, large an amount of sea. It just took him frickin' forever.
I feel like he's getting hung up on the way.
Yeah.
Ah, yes. I know the street by its curves.
If you didn't hate poetry, I'd suggest you use that as a line.
I think poetry is just really pretentious, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, it generally is. But I think you might be confusing poetry with poets.
Perhaps. I find the idea that words can have meaning kind of pretentious.
But just for fairness sake, I want to remind the audience that the people who are all words have no inherent meaning and then go on for 20 minutes about neurolinguistic programming and the inherent meaningless of this mouth noises you're making can also occasionally, very occasionally, be pretentious.
Yeah, that's true. I suppose an enthusiast of any stripe can be pretentious.
And generally tends to be.
That doesn't always mean that there's a pretense. That doesn't always mean a pretense is involved. It just means that they're perceived by another person as being pretentious. That can just reflect a lack of knowledge on the listener's part, which is kind of a pretentious thing to say.
Oh, Patrick, you do it for me. I don't even need to do appreciate you're making it easier on me.
Easier on you? I'm not trying to make it easier on you.
And yet you do. Like a gift of manna from the heavens.
Huntsbrook. That's very familiar. I think we were going the right way.
And I've seen enough movies that my brain just automatically inserts the ironic cutaway where it shows that we're going in the exact opposite way and hurtling towards a cliff.
Or somebody had reversed the sign or something.
Yeah.
I don't want to overstate my confidence because that's,
setting yourself up for a fall.
Yeah.
And the thing is that my knowledge of story tropes actually affects my view of reality and probability.
Now, if you had a knowledge of the layout of the roads immediately around your house.
Okay, but that's so much harder to learn. And it's arguably less interesting.
Yeah, it was something I really didn't know until I started driving. And really only because it allowed me to cover the distance much quicker. So, if I'm getting lost over a 20-mile area, I can do it a lot faster in a car than if I was wandering around on foot.
Yeah.
Huh. That license plate up there says Tai Chi.
Oh. I wonder if they're an instructor or enthusiast. I wonder if they can communicate their enthusiasm about Tai Chi in a member that's not perceived as pretentious. Maybe we should stop them and ask.
That sounds like kind of a dangerous procedure.
Probably.
Oh, look, and this side of Douglas Lane is blocked off, too.
Huh. We're sort of cursed.
Yeah. Well, at least they let me go this way.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder what the hell's going on down there.
Given our previous subjects of conversation, I'm thinking either zombies or machine uprising.
I'm guessing somebody probably hit a pole. That might explain why there's a utility truck.
That could be.
But it looks like
it's less probable than my theories, but it could be. It's just crazy enough to work.
It looks like the houses on our street have lights, so that's a good sign.
Yeah. That's really all I'm concerned about.
I don't see any roaring fires off in the distance or anything. So. You remember when they burned the house down next door to us? You remember that?
No. How long ago was that?
Oh, I don't remember. We were both probably a lot younger. Maybe you were too young to remember. It was when we had the Old English sheepdog.
I don't remember an Old English sheepdog, so...
Well, I guess our neighbors, I think facing the house to the left, I guess they decided to raise the house to build a new one by burning it to the ground. And
were they allowed to do that?
I don't know.
Because it sounds sort of nuts.
Yeah, and then nobody told us, so on a tree bordering our two properties, we had the Old English sheepdog lashed up to the tree. And
tell me the story doesn't end with the dog dying.
No, the dog was fine, but,
okay.
But it was straining at the end of its 30-foot tether trying to get away, because there was a gigantic house fire right next to it. It wasn't close enough for the heat to injure it. It was just very disturbing for the dog.
Well, yeah.
But that was one of those moments that sticks out in my mind because me and Dad were riding towards our car at the house and we just saw this black billowy smoke coming from where our house is.
Moderately disturbing. I remember when I was a little kid, and I think you might have been off at college and not even in the house. There was this huge lightning storm, and a transformer got hit and exploded, and I made a wish on an exploding transformer.
You made a wish on an exploding transformer?
Yeah.
What was the wish?
To be Sailor Jupiter.
Oh,
I think I sort of wasted my exploding transformer wish.
Yeah, you kind of wasted that one.
Okay, in fairness, I was probably 8.
Well, I was an enabler too. I wanted you to have the good subtitled versions of the Sailor Moon animes,
And I greatly appreciated that. I'm still actually a subtitle snob. A lot of my friends are okay with dubs, and I have to admit I look down on them.
They are heathens.
Who should be looked down on, and they are.
Yes. They are worthy of our aspersions.
Shun the non-believers. And we made it home.
Yep, we made it home. It only took us 49 minutes and 30 seconds.
Of absolutely riveting banter.
Yes, well, I hope you all enjoyed it as much as we did.